night, depending on where you are in the world. We're going to wait for everyone to join us. I think YouTube is coming up now. I see some people already in the chat. We're getting Facebook set up too. So as you join, please make sure to hit the like button. Of course, if you're watching this video after the live stream, please feel free, please hit the like button as well. As we get ready to go, I want to talk about a few things, review a few points we discussed last week, and then we'll begin our topic for this week, which is if conditionals. Today we're going to talk about if conditional sentences, and I'm going to introduce a few patterns that we can use with if conditionals too. So we're getting set up right now. Facebook, we're waiting on Facebook, and I think YouTube is on. I'll take a look at that in just a second. Oh, Facebook is up. Great. Okay, Facebook is up. And I don't see chat yet for Facebook. It's coming though, I think. So just a few more minutes, maybe a minute more, and then we'll get started. Oh, okay, good. YouTube chat is up. Fantastic. Hi, as always, Brazil. Good evening. Good evening to you in Brazil. Lots of people. Anderson, welcome back. Javier, I think from Ecuador. Hi. Guillerme, hello. Great. All right. I see all of our regular viewers from Brazil are here. HJ Kim from South Korea. Hi. I don't recognize your name. Okay. Oh, Facebook is up. Good. Nadine, hello. I see you on Facebook. Fantastic. Okay. We have everybody. Facebook and YouTube both up now. Magali from Peru. Hi. A lesson about mixed conditionals? I would like to. Today I'm going to talk about a few different types of conditionals, so maybe that will lead into some mixed conditional discussions as well. All right, Pham from Vietnam, hello and welcome. Great. Let's see, on Facebook, I still just see us for a second there. Hey, Kaiwa, YouTube, Ohio, good morning. Yeah, great. Eduardo from Mexico, hello and welcome. Fantastic. Okay. Everybody's joining. So while we wait for a few more minutes for a few more people to join as they get the notification, I want to review last week's topics. Last week, if you joined, it was our Halloween episode. Or Halloween themed live stream. We didn't really talk about Halloween, but some vocabulary words. And we talked about the kinds of costumes we wanted to wear, or the kinds of things we were interested in doing around Halloween. So I always like to share an example from my life. So here's my, I said I would post it. I said I would share it. So here's my actual costume that I wore for Halloween. Very cheap costume. I wore a Princess Leia costume. So last week I talked about 3 words for things that are scary. I talked about creepy, I talked about eerie, and I talked about gory. And so we talked about some costumes that could be creepy or eerie or gory. We talked about monsters and movies, but these costumes really aren't necessarily creepy or eerie or gory. I went with a fun costume. So I want to use this while we wait for everybody to join today. I want to use this as sort of our warm-up question for this week. Last week I said I was going to use this costume question as our as kind of a lead-in, as a warm-up to the grammar for this week. So last week I asked you, if you were here last week, maybe you remember this question. I said, if you were going to a costume party, what costume would you wear and why? So that was a future potential sentence. This week, however, as a warm-up, I want to ask a follow-up question about this. So, different question while we wait for everybody to join is, if you went to a costume party, please share what you wore. If you went to a costume party, please share what you wore. So in my case, I can say I wore, past tense, I wore a Princess Leia costume because it was fun and easy. So again, past tense, I wore a Princess Leia costume because it was fun and easy. So if you went to a costume party, here's our first if conditional for today. If you went to a costume party, please share what you wore. So for those of you who went to a costume party last week or for Halloween, for example, did anyone go? I'm seeing a few people. Oh, hello, a lot of people are coming in still. Did anybody go to a costume party? Some people, of course, yeah, Mansoor on YouTube, we don't celebrate it. Right, that's true. That's true. So depending on the country, maybe you celebrate or you don't celebrate. Wow, did nobody go to a costume party? There are like lots of people watching and nobody went. Just me. Okay, well, anyway, past tense. Our producer is saying I did. She went to a costume party. She had an amazing costume. So our producer, she wore an Addams Family costume. Past tense. She wore an Addams Family costume. It was awesome. Freddie on YouTube says, I wore a skeleton face painting. Ooh, interesting. So I wore a skeleton costume, for example. Carla on YouTube says, I wore a Scooby-Doo costume. Cool. YouTube says, I wore, make sure to use past tense. Past tense. Wear becomes wore. I wore a Jedi mantle, maybe? A Jedi costume? Okay. Great. So this is our first if conditional, a simple if conditional for today to begin today's lesson. Natalia says, I wore Alice's Fantasy from Alice in Wonderland. What is Alice's Fantasy? I don't know what that is. Anderson says, I wore a Yoda costume. Great, great. Okay, Magno, I'm great. How are you? I wore a Rick's costume. Ruben, what is Rick? I don't know. On Facebook, great. Some replies on Facebook. I wore a Spider-Man costume. Very nice, Dilip. Okay, great. I think a lot of people are here now, so I want to move on to sort of the main points for today's lesson. So as I said, this kind of introduces today's topic. If you went to a costume party is our if point here, and I've given sort of a command or a request a little bit right here. Okay. So let's continue on. Today I want to practice 3 more patterns we can use, 3 more kind of grammar points we can use with if conditional sentences. So let's continue. First, the first thing I want to do is introduce sort of the basic form of if conditional. So again, whiteboard today. We make if conditionals with 2 points. Yes, 2. If you're just joining, you just saw the little like, share buttons up here. Make sure to do that if you're just joining. It's super helpful for us. If people watch and people like the video, then we can continue making them. So please like and share too. Don't forget if you're just joining. Anyway, our basic form for today, we saw in the warm-up question actually too. When we make if conditional sentences, we'll use an if clause. So if clause, it begins with the word if. Like in my warm-up question for you, I said, if you went to a costume party, what did you wear? Please share what you wore. So it begins with if. That's our if clause. So that's the part of the sentence with if in the sentence. It begins with an if. Then we have a main clause. So the main clause can change a lot. We can make a question, we can talk about future probability, we can talk about things that have a high chance of happening. So today we're going to practice 3 more patterns we can use with this. By the way, you can do the reverse. So if conditionals are not always the if clause followed by the main clause. We can do main clause and if clause in the reverse order. That is also okay. So with this, let's keep in mind with an if clause, we must have a main clause. We can't just use an if clause on its own. So please be careful. Okay, so let's go on to the first or the second, I suppose, the second one I want to talk about today. So keeping in mind, we can use if conditionals to make plans, to ask about past activities, to talk about future possible situations, and we can use it to give advice and recommendations and ask for advice and recommendations as well. So let's move on to the first or the next sentence I want to practice with you today. Let's use this grammar to talk about your weekend, So in past live streams, we've talked about using going to, not going to, will, and won't to talk about your plans for the weekend. But let's sort of level that up. Let's use an if clause to talk about your weekend. If clause, talk about your weekend. So let's use a sentence. If you have time this weekend, what'll you do? So here you'll see I've I've contracted what will to what'll. What'll. This is a great pronunciation point. If you have time this weekend, what'll you do? What will becomes what'll. What'll. And then your response should be, if I have time this weekend, I'll blah, blah, blah. So please share an activity. If I have time this weekend, I'll cook something. If I have time this weekend, I'll go see the new Blade Runner. Oh, if I have time this weekend, I'll clean my house, I guess. If I have time this weekend, I'll watch TV, for example. If you have time this weekend, what'll you do? What'll you do? So this is a future possibility construction with the if conditional. So let's take a look. What are you going to do this weekend if you have time? Our producer says, I'll finish Stranger Things too. Our producer is watching Stranger Things. I'm not watching that. All right. Yes, the lesson is going on. The lesson is live right now. Great, Jordy, you're the first one on YouTube. If I have time, don't forget this part. If I have time this weekend, I'll go to the cinema. Very nice. Good. If I have time this weekend, I'll go to the cinema. Mansoor on YouTube, I'll sleep all night. If you have time. Okay. Xavier on Facebook, sorry. If I have time this weekend, I'll make something. Guaguas de pan? What's that? That's a dish? I don't know that dish. I'll Google it later. Mark Michelle says, if I have time this weekend, I'll ride my motorcycle. Good. Sophia, if I have time this weekend, I'll go to the gym. Nice. Dilip, if I have time this weekend, I'll meet my friends. Perfect. On YouTube, Nelson, if I have time this weekend, I'll play soccer. Alvaro says, if you send me greetings, I'll love you forever. That's funny. That's funny. Rindra, if I have time this weekend, I'll go to the swimming pool. If I have time this weekend, I'll practice drawing from Girme. Pamela says, I'll go to Machu Picchu if I have time. Nice. So Pamela used the opposite version. She had the main clause first and if clause second. Perfect. Levi, if I have time this weekend, I'll watch more videos on this channel. Nice. Yesenia, if I have time this weekend, I'll buy new shoes. Good. Sahir, if I have time, I'll visit the zoo. Good. Nice ones. Kevin on Facebook, if I have time this weekend, I'll play soccer with my friends. Very nice. Wow, there's a lot. Scarlett, I missed it. Oh my gosh. Eduardo, if I have time this weekend, I'll ride my horse. No going to. Here is our future tense. I'll going to is not correct. We have future tense I will. We use will because we're making the decision now in this conversation. So if I have time, I'll do something. No going to there. Okay. Hosen on Facebook. If I have time this weekend, I'll talk to my family. Very nice. What else? Mela, if I have time this weekend, I'll visit my friend. Good. Wow, there are a lot. If I have time this weekend, I'm gonna go to, or I'll go to rather, a place. A few of you are doing that. Samuel says, if I have time this weekend, I'll watch more of your videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. What else? Masaya on Facebook. If I have time after work, I'll hang out with my colleagues. Very nice. Marianne, if I have time this week, I'll finish my homework. I'll finish my homework. Okay. Lots of them. I'll go to the beach if I have time this weekend. Great, great. So again, some people put the main clause first and if clause second. Perfect, no problem. Sounds good. All right, so that's the first one I want to practice. Don't forget that this little I'll is your future tense statement, your future tense decision. So no going to here. Also, be careful. Sometimes people put will in the if clause. Don't do that. Don't do that. Your future tense grammar, your future tense choice should be here, not here. Your main clause, not your if clause. Okay, nice job, you guys. Fantastic. All right, then we're about 14 minutes in. So I want to take a quick break just to introduce. We have a new thing to share with you this month, or this week rather. So as always, our fantastic crew has prepared some good stuff for you guys. So from October, from last month, they've put together a free gift package, a free gift set that you can find on the website. So please visit the link in the description below the video on YouTube or above the video on Facebook, and you can download this free gift package from the website. So please just sign in with your account. If you have an account, you can just sign in and download it right away. If you don't have an account, you can make an account. It's a free account. You can make it and pick up the free things for this month. So these are our free things from last month that the crew put together for you. So please check that out. Definitely check that out. Of course, we had some Halloween-themed things, monster-themed things, but also some regular things you can use at other times of the year as well. So definitely take a look, check out the link in the description for the video, and go download the free gifts of the month. Should be good, I think. Okay. Yes. Oh, I see. There's a big deal at the bottom there. I didn't see that before. Fantastic. Okay, so please check that out. Again, link below the video on YouTube and above the video on Facebook. All right. So with that, let's get back to our topic. If you are just joining us, today's topic is if conditionals. We're talking about a few different patterns with if conditionals. We're talking about a few different expressions we can use. If you've just joined, please make sure to hit the like button. It's very helpful because other people can find the video, and if we get good feedback, we can continue to make the live stream. So please hit the like button. Of course, share as well. And yeah, I think people are still coming in. Thanks very much for coming. Donnelly on Facebook, hi. And I don't know, there are so many names. Ollie on Facebook as well, hi. And Jack on YouTube, I think, is new too. All right, so let's continue to the next example I would like to talk about. So the next grammar pattern is something we use for situations which are not real. So a situation that is not real, but we want to talk about a possible outcome. We want to talk about a possible result of that situation. So when we make this kind of grammar, when we make this kind of sentence, we need to think about the grammar that we use in the if clause. So for this pattern, to make this one, in our if clause, we're going to use simple past tense in the if clause for this one. And then in our main clause, we can use, at least for this one, in the main clause, we're going to use a modal verb. So I think many of you have studied modal verbs. So that's like our would, could, should, and so on, may, might. So for this one, for this pattern, we're going to use simple past tense in the if clause and a modal verb in the main clause. So we're going to talk about a situation that is not real, or maybe this situation is real for some of you, and talk about a future possible outcome. So let's look at our second, or third at this point, sentence, our practice sentence for today, which is, if you had a lot of money, what would you buy? If you had a lot of money, what would you buy? So here, had is in our past tense. If you had a lot of money, what would, our modal verb, what would you buy? Your response should be, if I had a lot of money, past tense again, if I had a lot of money, I would buy blah, blah, blah. So if I had a lot of money, I would buy a boat for my parents. Or if I had a lot of money, I would buy nice cookware. Yeah, absolutely. Pots, pans, things like that. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a nice camera. For sure, to take nice pictures of food. All right, so the question now is, if you had a lot of money, don't forget this past tense, if I had a lot of money, I would buy what? Arvin on Facebook, first one. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a car. Perfect. Okay. Tail love. If I had, don't forget had, not have, had a lot of money, I would buy a new phone. Good. Rehab, if I had a lot of money, I would buy a new flat. Nice. Flat, by the way, is like British English for apartment. I would buy a new flat. Very nice. Skara, yes, it is live right now. It is live. Facebook, woo, you're fast. If I had a lot of money, I would travel around the world. Alex, very nice. A little change here. I would travel. So Alex changed the verb from buy to travel. Nice. Xavier, if I had a lot of money, I would invite you to a special dinner. Oh my. Okay. Vo on Facebook, if I had a lot of money, I would buy many books. Good. Vladimir Putin, you're back this week. What an interesting person to join our chat. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a new dog. Good. Nelson, if I had a lot of money, I would buy a telescope. Mansour, if I had a lot of money, I would buy English books. Guillermo, if I had a lot of money, I would buy the Batmobile. I would buy a plane. I would buy, it's going very fast. I would buy a new notebook, says Scarlett. Pierre, if I had a lot of money, I would buy an Xbox One. An Xbox One. An Xbox One. Be careful of your vowel sounds before your noun phrase, yeah? Rogerio on Facebook, if I had a lot of money, I would buy a house. Good. Eduardo, if I had a lot of money, I would travel to the USA. Good. YouTube is coming too fast for me to read. If I had a lot of money, I would buy many things, okay? If I had a lot of money, I would get a Ferrari. Great. If I had a lot of money, I would buy the Real Madrid team. Oh, Real Madrid, right? Yeah, I think. Okay. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a big house, says Fereshte. Cool. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a little monkey. Okay. What do you do with a monkey? Gil on Facebook says, if I had a lot of money, I would buy the new iPhone 8. Nice. Okay. Lots of people saying new houses, new technologies, new cars, and so on. Great. Great. Okay. Nice sentences. Lots of things coming in here. All right. Sounds good. Then, time is going quickly as always. So this is one way we can talk about an unreal situation. I don't know. Maybe some of you have lots of money. I don't have lots of money. But if you had, so don't forget this past tense here. We use this to express an unreal situation, something that is not true now. Okay. Let's go, though, to our third point for today. So this last one, actually, no, it's not the last one. This one uses some kind of challenging grammar. So let's think carefully about this one. So we use this next grammar. Uh-oh, my producer says my text is too long. Okay, well, let's cut the last sentence. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. So the next grammar is rather challenging, but we use this for an unreal situation. So in the last one, we talked about the if clause with an unreal situation. So this is an unreal situation. And this time, the main clause is going to express an unreal past outcome. So we use this to talk about situations in the past which might have been different or could have been different or should have been different. This is for past outcomes. So the nuance of this grammar is it's the opposite of what actually happened. So let's take a look at a couple examples first. I want to introduce a couple examples. Sorry, my examples were very, very long, so our producer is fixing them for us right now. So let's take a look at the first one, if it's okay. Is it okay? All right, great. So, for example, we have here, if I had studied, I would have passed the test is one example. Or, oops, let me move. If you had left the house earlier, you would have been on time for the movie. Okay, so here, our if clause changes. We're not using the simple past tense in the if clause here. Here, we're using the past perfect tense in the if clause, the past perfect tense. So please be careful here. Past perfect tense. And our main clause here is using a perfect conditional, So this is a challenging grammar point, but we can use it to talk about a kind of complex idea, past potential or past situations that are unreal. Okay. So I want to mention, though, there's a huge pronunciation point in this grammar here. I want to talk quickly about that. So first, let's look at the if clause. This if I had studied. Let me move. If I had studied. Here, to make your pronunciation more natural, don't use if I had studied. Native speakers contract this part. So native speakers will make, for example, in the case of sentences that begin with I, or if I had done something, we contract this to Ida. If I'd studied. If I'd studied sounds much more natural than if I had. So please use if Ida. If Ida. Sounds much better for American English. If I'd studied, or if I'd studied, no other. If I'd studied, sorry. If I'd studied, I would have passed the test. So you can hear the same thing here with the main clause, would have. So we use the contracted form to sound more natural. If I'd studied, I would have passed the test. If I'd studied, I would have passed the test. So we do the same thing here with this different pattern. So if you had left the house earlier, you would have been on time for the movie. So again, contracted form. If you'd left the house. So again, you'd gets contracted. If you'd left the house earlier, if you had becomes you'd, pronunciation-wise. If you'd left the house earlier, you would have, again, would have been on time for the movie. So please be careful of this pronunciation point and try to practice this. This is a really, really good one. Also, native speakers will use this, the contracted form. We won't really pronounce the would have very clearly. So let's try to use this to make a sentence about your life. So last week we talked about Halloween, and maybe some of you did Halloween things, some of you, most of you did not, I think. But let's look at a past situation, a past unreal situation, and an unreal outcome. So this will be our last thing to practice for today. Let's look at our last question. Our last question for today uses this grammar point, uses this grammar here, and this pronunciation. The question is, if you had had, this is correct, if you had had more time last weekend, what might you have done? If you had had more time last weekend, what might you have done? So more time last weekend, more time than you actually had. If you had had in the past, this shows us in the past, potentially. If you had had more time last weekend, what might you have done? So past potential sentence. Some examples. If I'd, see the contracted form here, yeah? If I'd had more time last weekend, I might have. I've used contracted form here too. I might have, blah, blah, blah. So in my case, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have gone shopping. If I'd had more time last weekend, I might have watched a movie. If I'd had more time last weekend, I might have had dinner with my friends. So if you had had more time last weekend, what might you have done? This is a tough one. This is a tough one, so do your best. Okay. Kazuna, very, very close on YouTube. First one, if I had studied, if I'd studied programming, I would have created a robot, for example. Don't forget your have in the main clause. I might have or I would have with your modal verb there. Okay. Any ideas? Oh, okay. Roman on Facebook. So if I, don't forget this one. So our past perfect tense. I know it's a challenging grammar. Past perfect here in your if clause. If I had prepared for the exam better, I would have had, great, I would have had a higher score, So we can change this. In my example, I've used might. Of course, you can change this to would or could or whatever is best for you. But don't forget your had. If I had had, if I'd had. Okay. Great, the answers are coming in now. On YouTube, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have done the laundry. I might have washed my blankets. Nice. Rindra, if I had had more time last weekend, I might have visited my parents. Good. Scarlett, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have played online games with my friends. Nice. Levi, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have studied more English. Good. Samuel, if I had learned music, I would be playing guitar after watching your class. Oh, okay, so slightly different grammar from this one, but correct sentence. Sherry, if I had had more time last weekend, I might have worked overtime to earn more money. Nice. HJ Kim, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have taken a walk with my family. Good. Guillerme, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have trained my English more, or I might have studied more English. Nice. Juan Francisco, if I had chosen what I'd like to do in uni, I wouldn't have wasted a lot of time. Okay, so slight changes. I wouldn't have wasted so much time. On Facebook, if I had, be careful too. If I had had more time last weekend, maybe, so I would have studied more. So instead of using maybe here, let's use might have, because might expresses that maybe, that uncertainty, much more naturally than maybe does in the main clause there. So I recommend maybe. Other things. Mark Michelle, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have had more time for homework. I might have had more time for homework. Good. Back on YouTube, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have called my boyfriend. I might have called my boyfriend. Other things. Alla, if I had had more time last weekend, I might have prepared my presentation. Fantastic. On Facebook, Ism Russen, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have cleaned my house. Perfect. Sakai, if I'd had more time last weekend, I might have watched a basketball game. Watched a basketball game. Good morning on Facebook. You're just joining at the end. At the end. So this is a rather complex grammar point, and it expresses a past unreal situation and a past unreal outcome. So we often use this to express regret. Yeah, so like if I had studied more for the test, I might have passed it, for example. We can use it to express regret a lot. So this is challenging, yes, for sure, but we use it quite often as well. And of course, as some of you have done, changing the modal verb here can make some interesting and complex sentences as well. But it is 11:31 here now, so I have to wrap up. I have to wrap up today's lesson. So thank you very much for the excellent sentences. We talked about a lot of things. Of course, grammar, yes, but also remember these pronunciation points, these contracted forms of pronunciation points. All right, but I have to go. It is time for me to go because I have run out of time again. So I'm going to wrap up the lesson. Next week, our live stream lesson will be on Wednesday, November 8th. But I think due to daylight savings time, I think daylight savings time is starting next week in the US. I think it'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York City time, by the way. Many of you have asked about that. So I think it's going to be 9. Usually it's 10, but I think daylight savings time is starting next week. So it'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday, November 8th. So that's Wednesday evening for most of you. Wednesday evening for most of you. So next week, I'm going to talk about how to express your wants, needs, desires, some natural ways to do that, like for example, when you're shopping or when you need help from a coworker, those sorts of things. Also, maybe perfect timing for asking about Christmas presents. So I hope that that's a useful lesson for everybody. So please join in next time. But I have to run for today. I have to go for today. So thank you again so much for joining me this week. Thank you for your questions. And of course, please send your questions on the video even after the broadcast because I can check them and answer them next week. So thank you so much for the fantastic example sentences and for all the awesome ideas as always. I will see you next week. Please, if you haven't already, please make sure to like the video and share it if you enjoyed it as well. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, or follow us on Facebook as well. You can check us out at EnglishClass101.com. Also, the link for the free gifts, which you're going to see in just a moment. If you're watching the video on YouTube, the link is below the video. And the link is above the video on Facebook. So I think that the free gift package is only available for a limited time. They change it as, I don't know, every month or so. So if you really want to make sure you get it, go grab that now. So thanks again for watching. I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. And I will see you again soon. Bye.